Now, I know that some members have raised concerns regarding the security implications of the new embassy, and it is on that issue that I wanted to update the House. National security is the first duty of any government, and that is why the intelligence and security agencies have been absolutely integral to this process. The ISC, as the committee entrusted and empowered by this House to scrutinise the government's most sensitive information, have today released their judgment on the security implications. I thank them for their work and am reassured by the depth of their scrutiny throughout the process. The ISC concluded, and I'm quoting from their statement, "On the basis of the evidence we have received and having carefully reviewed the nuanced national security considerations, the committee has concluded that, taken as a whole, the national security concerns that arise can be satisfactorily mitigated." And I can confirm today that the Home Office has received a letter from the Director of GCHQ and the Director General of MI5, which makes clear that, as with any foreign embassy on UK soil, it is not realistic to expect to be wholly able to eliminate each and every potential risk. However, they say that the collective work across UK intelligence agencies and HMG departments to formulate a package of national security mitigations for the site has been, in our view, expert, professional and proportionate. They judge that the package of mitigations deals acceptably with a wide range of sensitive national security issues, including cabling. And indeed, they note that there are clear security advantages from the consolidation. Clear security advantages. Now, our security services have over a century of experience managing security matters related to foreign embassies on UK soil. This government and the last have been aware of the potential for a new embassy at this site since the Chinese government completed the purchase in 2018. The issues that continue to be raised in the media reports are not new to the government or the intelligence community, and an extensive range of measures have been developed to protect national security. We have acted to increase the resilience of cables in the area through an extensive series of measures to protect sensitive data. And I can confirm that, contrary to reporting, the government had seen the unredacted plans for the embassy. And this government has agreed with China that the publicly accessible forecourt on the embassy grounds will not have diplomatic immunity, managing the risk to the public. Based on all of this and our extensive work on this matter, I am content that any risks are being appropriately managed. But let me be clear, the bill also brings clear national security advantages. Following extensive negotiations led by this government, the Chinese government has agreed to consolidate its 7 current sites in London into one site. That is why, following deep scrutiny by security officials, the government has been able to conclude that we can manage the security concerns related to the embassy. Whilst there are those who have, and no doubt continue to have, concerns about this embassy, it is a fundamental and normal part of international relations that countries agree to establish embassies in each other's capitals. While some would stick their heads in the sand and ignore the obvious need to engage, this government is engaging with China confidently and pragmatically, recognising the complexity of the world as it is and challenging them where we need to. Because for our security, our economy and our climate, China matters. And to be clear, this is not a question of balancing economic and security considerations. We don't trade off security for economic access. Now, of course, we recognise that China poses a series of threats to UK national security, from cyber attacks, foreign interference and espionage targeting our democratic institutions, to the transnational repression of Hong Kongers, and of course China's support for Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. That's why I announced a package in November to protect our national security, which set out the range of the work the government is taking forward to strengthen the security of our democracy against the threat from foreign interference and espionage, It's also why, for example, in December 2025, the UK sanctioned 2 China-based companies that have carried out cyber attacks against the UK and its allies. And it's why we have completed work to remove Chinese-made surveillance equipment from sensitive sites. It is why the UK has sanctioned 50 Chinese companies under the Russia sanctions regulations as part of our efforts to take action against entities operating in third countries over economic and military support for Russia. And it's why I will be hosting a closed event in February with Vice-Chancellors to discuss the risks posed by foreign interference from a range of states and to signpost our plans to further increase the sector's resilience. But taking a robust approach to our national security does also include engaging with China. Under the previous government, engagement with China had ground to a halt. This made us no safer. Indeed, it is only through engagement that we can directly challenge China on its malicious activity. And by taking tough steps to keep us secure, we enable ourselves to cooperate in other areas, including in pursuit of safe economic opportunities which are in the UK's interest, but also in areas like organised immigration crime, narcotics trafficking, and serious organised crime. This is what our allies do, and this is what we're doing. Delivering for the public, putting more money in their pockets, and keeping them safe through hard-headed, risk-based engagement with the world's most consequential powers. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, I am grateful to Right Honourable and Honourable Members for their ongoing attention that they give to protecting the UK's security. China has and will continue to pose threats to our national security. But following detailed consideration of all possible risks around this new embassy by expert officials across government, I am assured that the UK's national security is protected. Let me assure this House and the country upholding national security is the first duty of government, and we will continue to take all measures necessary to defeat these threats. I commend this statement to the House.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind. The more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Let us be in no doubt about the threat China poses. MI5 has warned that Chinese intelligence is actively trying to disrupt our democracy. Bounties have been placed on the heads of Hong Kong campaigners. Members of this House have been directly spied on by China. China actively supports Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine, and China is infiltrating universities and businesses to acquire sensitive technology, as well as stealing it directly. Yet this government has failed again and again to take the action needed. This government failed to place China in the enhanced tier of the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme. This government failed to properly support the case against 2 men accused of spying for China on MPs in this House. And now they have shamefully approved plans for a Chinese super embassy. Despite everything China has done on our soil, China has been rewarded with exactly what they want, a super embassy that will be a base for espionage, not just in the UK, but likely across Europe as well. The government has capitulated to Chinese demands. The Prime Minister himself said to President Xi at the G20 in November 2024, and I quote, "You raised the Chinese embassy building in London when we spoke on the telephone. We have since taken action by calling in that application." In other words, the Prime Minister did precisely what President Xi told him to do, and then he faithfully reported back afterwards. This decision has serious implications. Last week, The Telegraph published plans showing 208 secret rooms and a hidden chamber just 1 metre from critical data cables. Our economy depends on those cables. So what assurance can the Minister give that those cables will be secure from Chinese interference? Now, in paragraph 97 of his decision notice, the Secretary of State who made the decision admits that he had not himself even seen unredacted plans before making his decision. So how can he possibly have assessed the risk himself as the decision maker without having seen those plans? The Secretary of State also admits at paragraph 13 that he did not follow our suggestion to hold sections 321 closed hearings to take evidence. Once again, how could the Secretary of State possibly have taken this decision in an informed way without having personally assessed the risk? And, Madam Deputy Speaker, it gets worse because paragraph 8.63 onwards of the Inspector's report admits that China can legally refuse to allow UK authorities to inspect the building during or after construction. So we're going to have no idea what they're actually building in there in any event. Now, the Minister references the ISC. He says that someone in government has seen unredacted plans, although we know that was not the decision maker, the Secretary of State. So can I ask, have the ISC seen those unredacted plans? Because it has been suggested to me that they have not seen those unredacted plans. The ISC say the risks can be mitigated, but mere mitigation is not enough. Mitigation entails only a partial exclusion of risk, and nothing is said about how to manage future developments in China's capabilities, developments we cannot anticipate today. The ISC also says, and the Minister for some reason forgot to quote this, but they also say the government process was not robust enough. They say it lacked clarity on national security. The ISC say the key reports lack the necessary detail. And the ISC said the government does not have the dexterity required to handle China. Does the Minister accept those elements of the ISC report? And others share those concerns. A US government source was recently quoted saying the UK had, quote, downplayed the risks. The White House last week was reported to be, quote, deeply concerned. And the US House China Committee Chair says that he opposes these plans on the grounds Americans' data may be at risk. Does the Minister agree with our American allies? Madam Deputy Speaker, it is clear this decision is timed shortly before a planned trip by the Prime Minister to China. He apparently intends to seek some kind of economic deal with China in order to fix the mess he and the Chancellor have created here, with jobs down and unemployment up since the election. From its timing and from President Xi's clear demands, this planning consent appears linked to the Prime Minister's imminent visit and linked to the economic deal. It seems clear to me that they are trading national security for economic links, and this is a shameless capitulation to China's demands. China is spying on us, it is subverting our democracy, it is repressing people on our soil, and it is stealing our technology. Isn't the truth this? In those circumstances, giving them what they want is simply the wrong thing to do.
Before I call the Minister, can I gently remind shadow ministers and spokesmen that there is a time limit which the honourable gentleman exceeded somewhat. Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I listened very carefully to what the Shadow Home Secretary had to say. There was a glaring gap in his analysis, and he didn't seem to want to have to say anything about the level of challenge that we inherited from the previous government in terms of the laydown of the diplomatic estate. He didn't want to accept that, as with other countries, there is a degree of risk which has to be managed. And I explained very carefully and made sure that he had the opportunity to come in this morning for a briefing. And I was at pains to stress in my opening remarks that whilst, of course, balanced views have to be taken about these things, there are national security advantages to the proposals that have been agreed. Now, I know that he and honourable members opposite don't want to agree with that, but I think it is important that we debate the Right Honourable Gentleman says it's nonsense. No, he's absolutely entitled to his opinion, as is this government, and I hope that he takes the opportunity to look very carefully at what the Director Generals of MI5 and GCHQ have to say. I also say to the Right Honourable Gentleman, and to some but not all members opposite, that actually this is also a moment, hopefully, where we could have discussed these things in a sort of sensible and reasonable way, and that's how we should approach matters relating to national security. But also, I don't think it would be such a bad thing for a bit of humility from some members opposite. Not least because the attack that we heard from the Shadow Home Secretary, the attack that other honourable members have already engaged with, might have actually sort of landed a bit fairer and a bit truer if they hadn't spent 14 years in government, flitting between hot and cold, neither consistent nor credible, on what is, after all, one of the most complex geopolitical challenges that we face. The party opposite went from golden age to ice age, from welcoming China with open arms to choosing to disengage almost entirely. And that's with the world's largest nation, who, along with Hong Kong, are our second largest trading partner. Now, it's convenient for some members opposite to forget that it was, of course, Boris Johnson, as Conservative Foreign Secretary in 2018, who granted consent for the Royal Mint site to be used as diplomatic premises. He was proud, and I quote, to welcome the fact that this is China's largest overseas diplomatic investment, the Conservative Foreign Secretary. In recent times, of course, we've seen Conservative MPs U-turn on the original position of their government and take a different approach. This government will ensure that the approach that we will take will be underpinned by ensuring that we engage consistently and pragmatically with China, but we will do so in a way that absolutely ensures our national security. The House will have heard the important contributions that have been made by the ISC and the conclusion that they have drawn. The House, the country, will have heard the comments that we've seen from the Director Generals. These are important contributions. Nobody should underestimate how seriously government has taken this matter. We've engaged with it incredibly closely. The intelligence security agencies have been involved with this process from the outset. I can give an assurance to those who have doubts that we will, of course, continue to monitor this process very carefully, but we believe that this is the right judgment.
Can I respectfully say to the Minister, that was an incredibly long answer, indeed longer even than the question, and perhaps questions and responses need to be briefer.